What's up guys, welcome back to the channel, and in today's video I will be sharing with you guys my story prediction for The Last of Us Part 3, which contains the continuation of the events at the end of the second game in the series, as well as the various things which are definitely possible if we ever got a third part of The Last of Us. Just a reminder that I'm only a massive fan of the series and this is just a fan who's making a story prediction. Now, since each of the two games in the series has brought in new mutations and stages of the infected, it's obvious that there will be new ones in a third game if there was ever one. So I have come up with a few names and characteristics of the infected as well. The mutations will be due to weather conditions, location changes and temperatures as well. The mutations will be an alternative path of the infected after they enter the third stage, which is the clicker stage. So the first change of the infected in the list is termed as Sporos. Now the Sporos are an alternative version of the Shamblers that hide themselves in spores, and the Sporos attack like stalkers. The second change in the list are termed as Chargers. Now the Chargers are extremely quick to attack and almost impossible to kill by guns or by combat as well. This stage could be similar to the Reacher from Days Gone if there was ever to be a comparison. The third change in the list is termed as Glucos. These are smarter infected that actually have the virus, but they still exhibit human characteristics, and the main part of them is that they can't be considered immune as well. The Glucos are also extremely good at hiding and can be considered to behave and move just like stalkers. So all of the three types would be new to the game, and the game would still contain the base levels of the infected consisting of the runner, stalker, clickers, bloaters, shamblers and the rat king as well. So now that we have a few important parts of the story prediction done, we move on to the actual main part of the video, that is the story prediction. The game will begin 5 years after the events of the second game. It will be following the same tradition of The Last of Us Part 2 with the same sets of characters Abby and Lev, then Tommy and Ellie with another character who was in the second game, but the reveal will be later on in the story prediction. The opening scene would continue right at the ending of the second game, which showed Ellie leaving the house and moving away. We see Ellie travel after the devastating events of the second game, and she plans to head to Florida. She travels through the deserted lands of Florida on a motorbike in order to cut down on the travel through walking. But still, Ellie goes on and on, teeming with no excitement and life in her. The reason I think bikes would be a cool and exciting addition to The Last of Us is just to add a new element to gameplay, and it would be a great addition since we already have Days Gone, another zombie apocalypse game having bikes for traveling in the world. So in this way, it adds another element to the story as well as the gameplay. But how does the bike play a role in the story of The Last of Us Part 3? This is where a memory of Ellie comes into play. The memories of something Joel said in the past.
It's Tommy's birthday, and that's all he wanted to do is just rent 2 Harleys and drive cross country.
As we the player move with Ellie on our journey through Florida, we see that infected hordes are lurking around everywhere and there is no place nor any way to hide from them. Soon on Ellie's journey, the main antagonist of Ellie's story gets revealed when there is a massive shootout which takes place between two factions in the middle of a road blocked by cars, similar to the situation Ellie and Joel underwent in the first game when they passed through Pittsburgh. Now the main antagonist is a man named Norman, who is an ex-Firefly, and his appearance consists of a special suit and a translucent mask, and the two factions are known as the Lakes and the Acorns. Ellie immediately runs into the groups on a bike and has a hard time fighting against them, but somehow Ellie ends up escaping, and her escape is held by a horde of Glucos which were passing through but soon got attracted to the noise of the gunfire in the shootout between the two groups. Norman gets bitten in an encounter with the horde of the Glucos, and soon Norman goes AWOL from the Acorns. Norman is the leader of the group Acorns. Ellie, after the encounter with Norman and his group, travels to spend time in Amelia Island in the hopes of finding a community to settle in, similar to her living conditions at the start of the second game. Ellie, as she is riding through with a bike, suddenly attracts a horde of Chargers behind her and tries to ride as fast as she can. One of the Chargers gets the higher pace on Ellie and makes a jump on Ellie, powerful enough to knock her off her bike, and soon the Charger combats Ellie in an attempt to bite Ellie. In the nick of time, Ellie gets saved by a woman who comes riding in with a massive jeep wearing a mask with another small kid who is also wearing a mask. The both of them immediately rescue Ellie from the horde and ride away instantly, removing the tension of the harsh situation Ellie found herself in. Ellie, once she calms down from the dangerous environment she was in, asks the woman who she is and asks her to remove the mask as well. The woman as well as the small kid remove their masks, and it is a massive shock for Ellie to discover that the woman and the kid were none other than Dina and JJ. Ellie, in absolute shock, just freezes there without words, and Dina gets emotional seeing Ellie after all this time. The both of them settle their feud, which took place at the end of the second game, and then Dina takes Ellie into a community in the middle of the island she has been living in for the past 5 years since she left the house at the end of the second game. The community surprisingly doesn't check for bite marks on any of the people it was taking and welcoming in. Ellie settles in peacefully with the other members of the community and immediately starts to show off her worth to the community by going on various supply runs, patrols across the community's areas and clearing the infected as well. After a bit of time, we get a scene where we see Norman once again, who has somehow made it into the community. The community, just like before, welcomes and takes in Norman without checking for bites. And this scene could be important since we as the player know that Norman is infected, but the rest of the characters in-game don't know anything about it. Norman, this time in order to hide his infection, wears a reflective mask which conceals his face and a special suit as well, just like before. Ellie soon notices it's the same Norman she had an encounter with in the past, and she does become suspicious of Norman. Later, the game would feature a mission of Ellie sneaking into Norman's house to have a detailed look and check on Norman and his information. She eventually finds out that Norman was an ex-Firefly due to finding the pendant as well as various notes and recordings as well. Ellie also finds out that Norman was actually part of the same crew which would go on to get brutally destroyed by Joel at the end of the first game in an attempt to save Ellie from the Fireflies. After investigating Norman's house, Ellie attempts to leave the house in a sneaky way, but to her surprise, she finds Norman, who is now turned into a gluker and is waiting for her at the door. Ellie runs past Norman, who ends up chasing her, but Ellie stealthily gets rid of Norman and reaches Dina and informs her about the matter. Once again, Norman shows up, alerting the entire community about him, and the rest of the members help Ellie to fight Norman, and they succeed in defeating Norman. Norman, right at his last moments, whispers to Ellie that she was wrong about Joel and what she thought about him. Ellie, listening to this, gets angry and kills Norman finally, causing the screen to fade to black. And once again, the screen comes up to display, showing that Ellie has peace and is living happily with Dina, JJ and the community with the unforgettable memory of her father figure Joel. The screen once again fades to black to continue to the second half of the game. The screen once again comes up to show a new scene which consists of Abby after the final encounter with Ellie at the beach, leaving with Lav on the boat as shown at the end of The Last of Us Part 2. Now, as we know, the ending sections of the second game, the game showed that the Fireflies do have a base at Catalina Island, and Abby got to know this over the radio.
You're about to get 2 more. How do we find you?
Get to Catalina Island. Approach the large domed building in Avalon.
After a long journey, they both are exhausted, and once they reach the island, they settle into the Firefly base. So then there's a time gap of 5 years. Then we see Abby and Lev together patrolling the island, and everything is back to normal for Abby and Lev until they run into a faction called the Lakes. The Lakes are hunters who follow shoot-on-sight orders and kill anyone they see. They are led by one main man called Dylan. Abby and Lev, once they run into this faction, have a tough face-off against them, but somehow Abby and Lev escape. During the fight, Dylan gets hit by a bullet at his arm and returns to base immediately, where he gets patched up and has a small chat with his group where he gets to know about a limping man who was an ex-hunter seen passing through the island. Dylan sends a team to find this man, and once they find the man and bring him back to their base, there is another revelation, which is that we find out that the limping man was none other than Tommy, and a further discussion takes place between Tommy and Dylan, which goes ahead to reveal that Dylan was the brother of Tess. Joel's death is revealed by Tommy to Dylan, and since Dylan was Tess's brother, he knew about Joel as well, and thus he sets out with Tommy and the others to hunt Abby down while facing the various dangers across the island. Dylan and Tommy lose most of their crew across the harsh journey, and both of them finally find Abby and Lev. So a massive fight takes place between the both of the pairs, and finally Tommy and Dylan both knock Abby and Lev out. The one thing which I need to mention is that if the situation was to take place actually, then we as the player would simultaneously switch control between Abby and Tommy. So this would be similar to the situation we had in the first Last of Us game, where we controlled Ellie and Joel simultaneously during the winter section of the game. So after some time, Lev and Abby come back to their consciousness. They notice that their hands are tied up, and Tommy walks up to the both of them and asks Abby whether it was worth it. Abby continues to stay silent, trying to escape from the ties. Tommy, after thinking a lot, finally comes to a decision and shoots Abby, leaving Lev alive. Dylan later informs Tommy that his group had a shootout with the group present on Amelia Island, and he talks to Tommy about Ellie, describing her, and Tommy immediately understands and gets to know that it was Ellie at Amelia Island, and immediately asks Dylan to come with him to Amelia Island. Dylan and Tommy leave the island and come to Amelia Island. They run into Ellie during her patrol with one of the community members. Tommy informs Ellie that Abby is dead and he shot her. Ellie immediately gets reminded of Joel and immediately bursts into tears. Heartbroken but toughened by the circumstances surrounding her in this brutal world, Ellie consoles herself, and the screen fades to a flashback where we as the players see Ellie standing in front of Joel, and immediately both of them embrace in a hug, and she tells Joel in the moment in an emotional tone, "I love you, Dad," and Joel also replies, "Love you, kiddo." Then the screen immediately fades to black and the Naughty Dog logo plays with the credits, thus sealing the end of a beautiful era we call The Last of Us. Thank you all for watching. This was something special and similar to the story prediction I made for God of War Ragnarok that I had done on the channel before. This game was really special to me and you guys have supported this beautiful journey throughout. If you enjoyed this video, do leave a like on the video and let me know what you guys thought of the story, and subscribe for more videos like this. And if you guys are interested to watch my story prediction for God of War Ragnarok, click the video on your left, and yeah, thank you for watching.